Edward says, pick me. Sardis looks set for a big year. Drapes is playing for the big bucks, and it's mid-Feb, and it feels like June. This is the Sash, definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. First pod for 2025, and I'm very happy to be joined on satellite by Jesse. Hello, mate.
G'day. Another year. Welcome back. Good to have footy back yesterday. I love watching the Bombers, albeit, it was great to get a win. You'll take any win that you can get, but yeah, it's strange talking about footy, and I've got cricket in a couple of hours. It's a funny time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah. If you're here in Melbourne, and yesterday was an absolute shocking day, about 15 degrees, it's mid-Feb, it was pouring rain at times. I was with the missus and the kid on High Street, and she was just like, it's like, it feels like winter. I'm like, I know, like there's about to be a footy game. I'm like, what's going on? But it was nice. It was nice to sit down and watch it on the couch and enjoy the coverage, enjoy a bit of Dyson Heppel on comms, which was pretty funny at times. And then just try and get a bit of a read on a few boys there at the ground. You watched it from home as well?
Yep, I was on a few duties yesterday. I felt like a 1970s middle-aged wife at home. I was cooking a leg of lamb, and I was vacuuming the house whilst watching the football, and I was doing it all.
You're a modern man, Jesse. You're a modern man.
Exactly right. My wife, I can now say, I'm officially married as of November last year. She was coming back from Queensland. I hadn't seen her all week, so thought I'd do a nice little belated Valentine's. So I cooked her a leg of lamb and made the house look nice. I watched the first half, and then I was sort of in and out for the second and the third and fourth quarter, but ended up rewatching it a little bit later on. But it was pretty good. I was pretty impressed. There was a few, bads as well, but definitely I would say that the positives outweigh the negatives, and I'm really looking forward to talking about a couple of players. There's a few whipping boys, I would say, from last year that in particular have really taken their game by the looks of things to the next level. You know me, I'm a bit of a nuff, as we all are, but I've been taking my nuffiness to the next level, and I'm quite in tune with training reports and what everyone's talking about, who's getting down in that December-January period, and it looks like most of the reports are correct, because a lot of those players that we'll speak about shortly, have really stepped up, and we're going to need that this year. So, how about yourself? Did you get down yesterday, or did you watch it on satellite? Yeah,
no, I was just on the couch for me on Fox, watching the grainy coverage that they had there. It was good to watch, as you say, and you said you are enough. This is enough safe zone here on the Sash. I think we enforce the fact that this is enoughy safe zone, as much as we like to pay out on ourselves. It was funny reading the comments from my little match notes that I just put up on social media. Judging by those comments, we're going to win the flag, and we're also going to finish last. So there's a real spectrum of comments from one match sim, which is great. But yeah, like you said, it was nice to get a good look at individuals. Sometimes on those VFL sort of broadcasts where you don't have the really good vantage point, it can be hard to get a real good gauge of some of the structures and things that are going on without being at the ground. But for me, it was about looking at a few guys and going, all right, where's this guy at? How are they adjusting to a new role? How are they adjusting physically? Where's their fitness at? And a few sort of things. And look, I would say there was definitely more positives than negatives to come out of the day. Both sides obviously missing quite a few big names, plenty of guys on managed minutes, only playing the first half or the second half, stuff like that. But all in all, I walked away with it going, cool, there's some nice things to take away there into our next practice game, and then onwards for the first game of the season. So yeah, I'm content, I think, is probably the best way to put it. Let's just jump into some of the players that we want to speak about. And I think the headline act is a bloke who probably no one knew who he was, apart from the real sort of experts prior to this game. And it was a young lad by the name of Tom Edwards. He's got a real herd look about him. Like if someone told me he was the son of a herd, I'd go, yeah, I could say that. But no relation as far as I'm aware. But played half a footy, kicked 4 goals. And there's a spot on the list up for grabs, and I think he's just gone and just started to write his initials on that contract there. Shades of a Nick Martin a few years ago coming in for one of these games and really, really lighting it up. I was really impressed by him. It was quite funny in our little message thread. It was like, oh, he's kicked a goal. Oh, he's kicked another one. Oh, he's kicked another one. Like it just sort of kept happening. What'd you make of young Tom?
I mean, he took it with both hands. Pardon the pun. I felt in that circumstance, all I could think of was Kane Baldwin at the other end of the ground, and how when you just set, like you wish the best for someone, but when you know you're up against an individual for a lift spot, you'd be pretty dark and dirty on yourself and that individual. I mean, the fact that he's up the other end of the ground as well, and you're like, okay, he's kicked a goal. It's like, let's not panic. That's what you'd be thinking, right? He kicks a second goal. Okay, this is like getting worrying. And then by the time he kicked his third goal, you'd be thinking that Kane Baldwin was, booking his flights back to South Australia. And I mean, just a little bit on Kane before we talk about Tom. If people aren't aware, both those two individuals are the SSP individuals vying for a list spot selection, and the club doesn't need to take either of them. But you would have to say after the performance of Tom over the weekend, I mean, it was an outstanding performance. His hands are fantastic. I was really, really surprised. He's that prototype size forward, 191 centimetres. He's actually mature age as well. He doesn't look like it. His frame's quite lean, but he is about 25 years old, from what I can understand. But I typically get these things wrong, so someone might need to fact check that. However, yeah, he looked great. I mean, his presentation was great. His work rate was really good. There was a few times upon rewatching that third quarter where he was all the way in the back line doing defensive work, and he was one of the first running out of the forward line. So, yeah, in that sense, I was really impressed. I mean, he was a dead-eye dick. He didn't miss a single chance that he had. And, I mean, for his height, he was taking some seriously good contested marks against some taller people. I mean, that second mark that he took in traffic with about, I think there was like 6 or 7 people in that pack, that's a seriously good footy mark. It was. It was sort of that one where a lot of people went up and I was like, oh, no one's really going to catch this. And then suddenly there he is just in the middle of it with the ball in his hands. Really, really stood out. He's a WA prospect, and we sort of joked about when Matt Rosa came in to replace Dodoro that is he going to start plucking some more WA boys up that we've never heard of before, much like a Nick Martin. And this is young Tom Edwards, who's been playing for Swan Districts over there in Perth. I guess it's good that, like, because he played the second half. I'm fairly certain he was just a swap for Kyle Langford, who played in the first half. I think that's a good thing to know, is that, look, I don't expect this guy to be playing against the Suns. I think, I don't think any of us really would be predicting that to happen. I could be wrong, of course. But if something does happen to Kyle, that he's a guy who can come in who, similar style of player, similar size sort of player, and can be another option up forward, because it is one of the big questions this year, and a lot of media speculation about it is with Stringer going, where are Essendon's goals are going to come from. We'll talk a bit about Peter Wright later in the show, but there's questions about him. There's questions about the two ruckmen. You can't put it all on Caddy and Kako, who are kids. So where are these goals going to come from? And, if a mature ager like Tom Edwards comes in, hypothetically, chips in for 10 or 15 goals for the year, that could go a long way to help us getting to the goal that we want this season. So, look, it's a great story. Really happy for the guy. Obviously,
if this does mean that Kane Baldwin doesn't get a spot, it's a bit of a sour note for him. But you'd hope that Kane finds another club somewhere or stays at Essendon VFL if he isn't to make it at the AFL level. So, look, it's a great story for young Tom, and yeah, I read countless comments yesterday going, "Who is this person?" People just DMing the page, being like, "Who is this person?" The photo that you shared, and I'm like, I'll tell you what, until 2 weeks ago, I didn't know who he was. So, yeah. Great tale. Who would you like to speak about next, Jesse?
Just to finish off on the Tom Edwards and the Baldwin side of things, he was all over the paper as well today. I mean, it would have, really for him, it's a massive accomplishment, something you should be really proud of, because it says a lot about someone in a trying situation like that to step up to the extent that he did. And, it really gives Wanganeen vibes from a few years ago where against the Dogs he kicked those 2 or 3 goals in a pracky at a similar time of the year. Yep. He is hoping the story doesn't unfold in a similar way as to what it did with Wanganeen, but and more so like it did with Mardo. The last time we had a forward kick sort of 4 or 5 goals on debut, he ended up as Nick Martin. So if he, as a SSP, can, follow a similar path, then I think we'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, hopefully we don't lose by 10 goals, though, against the Suns, and he kicked 5. I'd rather take the win, if I'm being honest with you, as great as that would be. Who would you like to jump onto next?
I think just the last thing on Baldwin is that there's a few people. I put a post up on Blue Sky last night, and for any faithful out there that are looking for content to consume, Blue Sky's pretty much a ex-replacement now and competitor, and there's a lot of Don's nuffs on there, posting from different pods and so on. So if you are someone during the day that likes to flick through and just read Don's content, you've got a bit of stuff there. Feel free to jump on board, and I'm regularly posting stuff as well. But my question was about Tom Edwards or Baldwin and who you'd select, and there's a couple people there that were, there seems to be a lot of the faithful who are big on Baldwin, and I guess my statements around Baldwin would be that his body's just too unreliable, and picking him up, selecting him again always was going to come with risk. I mean, the bloke's had 2 knee reconstructions. He's had a navicular. Yeah. I mean, these are pretty debilitating injuries. He's hardly been on the park. And from what I've seen, he's a fantastic contested mark. It's his strength.
He's good kick.
But his kicking can be really average, though. And it's funny you say that, because, I mean, yesterday, the 2 times that he got the ball from a really great contested mark, he turned the ball over straight away in defence.
That's true. That's true.
And, yeah, I mean, look, he's a great guy, and I wish him all the very best, but I think it's time for us to move on. We've picked too many players, that have these injury concerns, and you know what? Like the Matt Rosa train, I'm jumping on, because there's not a single player that he's selected thus far that hasn't looked like a really good footballer. Reece Unwin looked really good yesterday. A great pick-up. I mean, Kako, he was electric. Tom Edwards as this SSP selection from Swan Districts in WA. Like, he keeps plucking these blokes, these gems out from WA, and it might be the trick. So, that's my last piece there on all of that. I think a big one who I'm on this year, and who I posted in the thread, that I'm quite, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, and I don't necessarily sort of promote that type of thing, but I would be putting chips in on Sardis to be the rising star this year. He looked electric. He, by all reports, has been tearing up the training track. In each match sim, he's getting sort of 10, 12 clearances. Yesterday, it looked like he had at least 6 or 7 clearances at the bare minimum. I mean, his hands in tight he just opens up the game with his chain handballing, and it's something for years that we've messed up, and there's still a few players in our team that fall victim to these handballs over the top, or handballing to someone, when we are going a quick play through the middle, handball into someone who has a player hot on them or whatever it may be. But Sardis just looked great. His agility looked really good. His kicking was pretty good. He didn't really make any...
For his standard, yes.
Yeah, like it was really, really good. And I think we've found a player there, you know, who can fit that Parish role. And I mean, geez, I tell you what, that midfield with someone like Parish and Sardis in there, I couldn't imagine what it would be like. It's pretty exciting times ahead, I'd say.
They'll win a lot of footy and they'll turn it over very quickly.
Yes,
Sench Footy on Instagram posted some stats from the game. I'm not exactly sure if these are official or not, but yeah, 31 disposals, 21 handballs, 4 tackles, 4 inside 50. So he definitely got a lot of ball. But like, look, he's clearly taken the next step in his development. If you've watched him at VFL level before, you'd know he's a natural ball winner. Reads the ruck well, finds the footy well. Now it looks like he is ready to take that opportunity, play as an inside mid at senior level now, and particularly with Parish likely to miss games early on in the season. Well, okay, kid, here's your opportunity. Go play some games at AFL level in your preferred role, and let's see how you go. It's exciting times ahead for him. So yeah, I'm really happy about the development for Sardis. He's looking good, and I think, you know, there might be a few people out there who, again, maybe haven't watched a lot of VFL footy and only know him from those small games that he's played at AFL level that will kind of go, oh, this is why we took him at the pick we did. Because there's definitely been plenty of chat over the past 2 seasons where he's come in, performed pretty poorly, let's be honest. And people have been like, why is this the guy we took at pick 5? Why is it? Well, now he's starting to show why. He's got the development. He's looking bigger. He's looking stronger. He's looking fitter. And he's playing in the position that he's good, which is just in the guts, finding the footy. And it means that if he continues to develop into what we want, like you said, if Parish gets back to it, you've got a couple of guys who are natural ball winners who then can help, you know, your Merritts, your Caldwells, your Durhams, your Martins, all these other type of guys who at times can win their own footy, but I do think there are times they do struggle to win it. So yeah, I'm really happy for Sardis and, you know, keen to see how he goes against some real good opposition because, you know, if we're being honest, obviously the Doggies had plenty of their best guys not playing in the guts yesterday. So, you know, Matt Rowell, round 0, that's as big of a test as anything. So if Sardis can go in there, win some footy, help the team get a good result, then it's awesome for him.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to get a gauge on yesterday's midfield performance because of the lack of depth the Dogs had in there. I mean, it was really almost our full strength midfield for ruck combination against hardly any of their first string midfielders. I mean, there was no Chalor, there was no Liberatore, no Bont. It's hard to get a gauge on, but certainly all the midfielders played really, really well. I mean, I was super impressed with Caldwell too. It doesn't look like he missed a beat. For those that aren't aware, he's been managing a hip injury. He had hip surgery late last year, and he's been on really light duties since the January period. He only had his first half of match sim last weekend, so he's been really slow into it, but he looked great. He looked really powerful, better than he looked last year, I found. I was really, really impressed. It looks like he's actually taken his game to that next level just through his raw strength and power. I mean, some of his kicking, as per the conditions yesterday, was pretty windy. Wasn't great, but again, I mean, the midfield's looking pretty strong now. I mean, Merritt obviously was doing Merritt things all day. Sardis was winning a lot of his ball. Caldwell winning a lot of his ball. You know, Sammy Durham wasn't playing. Perkins was looking really good through the middle and up the forward line. Another player probably worth mentioning was Perko. He is one I feel like this year's probably got the biggest spotlight on him. The microscope's on him this year. He's got more talent than most in our team, and last year, bit of a dog of a year for him. You know, really good first 3 or 4 games to start the season, and had mentioned he was dealing with some confidence issues throughout the year, just getting a little bit in his head over analysing the game, and just not really playing that instinctual footy, which we know he's best at. And there was a few shake and bakes, which were fantastic to see. He had that confidence. You know, he's a bit like Merritt, where he can just sort of stop on a dime and change direction, and has that vision to hit the short 45 pass, almost running the complete opposite direction that you'd think that he was going. And he did that quite a few times, took a couple of really strong contested marks, obviously kicked a couple of really good goals, and is looking like he's going to be, you know, a pretty great like-for-like replacement for Jakey Stringer this year if he keeps playing like that. I think the test for Perk is just going to be consistency. You know, we've seen this in patches, and you know, I've got my fingers and toes crossed that he can, you know, put together, you know, at least 18, 19 really solid games of footy this year.
Yeah, I think the thing with that positional move is that he doesn't have to have big numbers in terms of possessions, and when he was playing in the guts, he did struggle to find the ball at times. There'd be patches of the game where you kind of just see him running up and down, just struggling to get involved. Being in this sort of high half forward role with the occasional pinch hit, it's like, hey, you don't need to be getting 25, 30 touches as the real good mids do. Get 15 touches, kick a couple of goals, maybe set one or two up, and that's what we need out of you. He's another one who just, like with Sardis, I'll throw Ben Hobbs in there as well, who just looks more mature, looks a bit stronger. Hobbsy and Perko have gone the jarhead skin look, which I love. So that's a big vibe. So yeah, I was really happy with Perko's performance, and yeah, he is one to watch, because as people will be going, oh well, you've got to recreate Stringer, and I don't think anyone can recreate Stringer. He's really a sort of, you know, individual player who can just do some incredible things, and Perko's just got to become that team man who we can rely on to go get you a couple of goals, help set up the team, do the defensive stuff as well, because that is something that's really important. And I did feel at times yesterday, like in patches, I thought our forward pressure was quite good. There were definitely times where the doggies just kind of waltzed straight out of our forward 50, but it does seem like we have a more mobile and more, you know, pressure ready forward half team. And then, you know, Gresham will come into that side as well. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else off the top of my head who is missing, but yeah, 12. No, I'm liking it. Someone else who I wanted to single out was Draper, and Nick Bryan as well. Nick Bryan actually had a really good game, but Draper, the thing I liked about it is he looked really fit to me. And there's been a few times that we've come to this point of the season where we've hit these early practice games and I've looked at him and gone, I don't think he looks fit. But this looked a bit different to me. He looked really strong. My missus, who probably watches 1 in 5 Essendon games, if that, was like, oh, wow, he looks really strong at the moment. He was moving well. He played out most of the game. He impacted up forward. He impacted in the middle, you know, a couple of highlights, as we know, with Drapes. And yeah, it's a very interesting year for him, because he's obviously on the free agency market, and if he has a consistent year and plays well, he's going to be demanding some big bucks, whether it's from us or another club. So yeah, I liked what I'm seeing early on with him, and then obviously to tandem with that, I really enjoyed the work of Nick Bryan, just continuing to develop, continuing to become a really sound ruckman. If we want him to drift forward, there's obviously a lot of work that has to be done in that space, but if we're just talking about the middle stuff, he's really sort of doing the right stuff. And yeah, it was nice to not see Todd Goldstein playing, so I was really happy about that.
Yeah.
No offense, Goldie, we love you, but yeah, we want to see the young boys.
Well said. Yeah, I can't stop thinking about Drapes at the moment, and it's going to be just one of those really trying years for us, because, you know, our success this year, I think, is going to really hinge on his decision to stay at the club or not, and whether or not he sees that there is a future with us. There's been a few reports I heard on Gold 104.3 that Draper was unlikely to sign. They said something along those lines a couple of weeks ago, which is pretty early in the year to be saying that, and I think we're going to be hearing a whole bunch of rumours this year, but we've got an absolute war chest. Can I cut you off? Who on Gold said that? Was it it was just a news reporter.
Was it Bryan Adams? Was it Queen? Was it Madonna? Was it the Beatles? Like which of the Gold music artists was talking footy?
Yeah, Michael Jackson, I think.
Yeah, okay,
popped up
MJ,
from the grave and
right.
had his word. But yeah, look, it's going to be one of those years where, it's contract year for Drapes, and it's looking like if he can get his body right for the year, and this is one of his first years for a while, he's had an entire pre-season, hence he's looking very fit and ready to go. I mean, some of the work he did yesterday, in the forward line, that snap goal was just ridiculous. Some of his contested marking up the ground, that outlet kick, we kicked to him quite a few times, and his ability just to outmark his opposition, it's pretty hard to outmark him. He's looking like an absolute truck and is obviously super tall. His work out of the middle was fantastic. Some of that clearance work. I'm a bit terrified, really, because we just can't afford to lose him, and it just gives me Paddy Ryder vibes at this point in time, losing, an excellent ruckman, one of the best ruckmen that we've probably had in the last 20 years. Paddy Ryder was easily that for us, and we lost him, and we saw the season that he had at Port, and the potential of losing Draper to Adelaide or Port, for the same, it's a different reason, but at the same stage of their career, we know that ruckmen usually hit their prime around sort of 26, 27, 28, 29. We've just got to do everything to retain Draper, and we've got an absolute war chest, and, no matter what that he gets offered, I'd be paying more, and he's going to be worth every dollar of that.
Yeah, I think it is likely to be the Crows of the two. I believe they're probably in more of a position to pay big bucks. But yeah, I guess it really just depends on the year that he has. If he has a really good year, then, that number's just going to keep going up in terms of the offer they get. And I guess it also comes down to the year the club has. Like if we have a good year, we play finals, maybe we break the drought, or even we just have a good year that everyone's like, all right, things are going in the right direction. He might be more likely to stay. But if it's a shocking year, we go bottom four, as some people are suggesting, then you could understand that he may be like, maybe Adelaide seems pretty good, I'm pretty comfortable going back there. But, he's been in Melbourne for a while. You'd hope he's be loyal to the club that gave him the opportunity at AFL level. So, yeah, time will play out. I'd like to talk about it is a bad in a way, but it's someone I'm a bit concerned with. And I feel like, continuing to talk about ruck forwards, I feel like maybe we should talk about Peter Wright quickly before we go back to other goods. I'm getting the vibe that he's on the outer at the moment in terms of the best 22. Did come in and play some senior minute, didn't have a great impact. He did run out with the VFL side afterwards as well. Didn't actually watch the VFL game, so I can't comment on how he played, but there was something that really struck me this week, and it wasn't until yesterday that I really kind of put it together. Have you watched Brad Scott's interview with Cal Twomey that he did the other day? Yeah. So there was a discussion there where they were talking about having a forward line and a team that's too tall, and Brad made a really interesting comment. I'll read it out to you. I wrote this down. If you're tall and immobile, you have to be marking it. Is that sustainable in the modern game? I suspect it's not. Now, I read that statement. The player you think of is Peter Wright in our team, because he's tall. He's not mobile at all. When he marks it, he's amazing. But when he doesn't mark it, he has nothing to offer. And even just looking at the way the team played yesterday, what we saw late last season with Peter getting omitted, I think he's unlikely to play against the Suns. And I think we're going to be seeing the Brian Draper combo, along with the other guys in the forward line there, which I think most people are content with. But yeah, it is a bit of a downer one for Pete to see him likely to be starting in the VFL this season and really having to earn that spot back, because it's crazy to think how good he was a couple of seasons ago, where he was clunking everything and kicked 50 or 60 goals, whatever it was, to where he is now. And judging by those comments, Brad doesn't seem to think he's got a position in this team, or maybe a long-term future. Like, he's contracted for a few more years. He might be on the trade table end of the year.
Well, at least he's not on a big contract. Oh, wait, no, we gave him a mammoth contract after he had one good season, didn't we?
Something reasonably big, I'm sure. But
wasn't it 5 years?
Yeah, something like that.
700.
To his credit though, like, we all know what he's been doing on field, but everyone I've ever spoken to at the club, and people behind the scenes, like mates who know physios and coaches and stuff like that, everyone always says that Peter Wright is one of the hardest workers in that space. Like, he really sets the tone of professionalism. So he does everything right in that sense. But honestly, since that shoulder injury, he's just never been the same. And I was always been like, is that going to change? Will he get back there? Will he get that confidence? But it just seems, what is it, 2 years on from that? 3 years on from that? He just hasn't. So, yeah, I don't expect him to play against the Suns. Probably won't even play against Geelong in the next practice match. And then it's really going to be on him to earn your spot back or wait for someone else to get hurt. So, yeah, that was an interesting one I thought I should bring up.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's such a shame because, I mean, you can see he has all the tools in the shed physically, but, he just doesn't have the right mindset, unfortunately. And I don't think that he has a winner's mindset. And, I've done a lot of research and training involved, high performance team environments. And, what's integral to success is what goes on upstairs and how you're able to control your thoughts, positive self-talk, belief in yourself. And that's where, you hear of people say, oh, they're confidence players. But, true champions and teams that have success, high-performing environments, just they don't have people that don't have that winner's mindset. And, even yesterday, he took a mark, 30 out on the boundary, and we all know how good of a kick he is. And as he's walking in, he's still just looking around, to kick past to someone. And you can just see, I just don't think, no matter how good Peter Wright can be, that he's ever going to make it as an AFL footballer consistently, because he doesn't have a winner's mindset. Again,
because he made it for a moment, for a year or so there. But again,
And the law of averages would say, one good season out of 10 is probably an anomaly at this point in time.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame because he's a great bloke by all reports and he puts in the hard work. But yeah, it just does not seem that he's in the conversation right now. What did he kick last year? 19 goals in 2023, although he didn't play that many games. And then 53 the year before. And then obviously some years at the Suns are there as well. So, yeah, watch this space with old Petey. Bit of a shame, that one. But let's go back to some goods before we wrap up, because we've both got to go in the next 10 minutes, I reckon. A move that I liked, and I think will be a good move moving forward, is Dylan Sheil at halfback. When I first heard the training reports that that's what he was doing, I was a bit like, oh, yeah, no, maybe, I'm not sure. But the thing I do like, I like that he can break the lines because he's got real explosive pace. I like that he can absolutely launch one if he needs to, like a really long kick into the forward line. Yes, he needs to be cleaner. Like, we know the errant ways of Dylan Sheil, particularly, kicking it, sometimes even handballing it, just really kind of just going too fast for the speed of the game and then making a mistake. What I did like is that I could see a lot on the television that he was directing traffic. So there would be a stoppage and he'd be nearby, like, someone near him tackled someone, or he did. And then straight away he was up and he was pointing at younger guys and he was like, you get to here, you get to here, you get to here. And I was like, that's what you want to see from senior guys. Like, obviously you need to perform as well, but he was clearly leading that side. With Dyson Heppel going, Jake Kelly going, there is a bit of experience leaving that back line. And it's kind of on, Andy McGrath and him, particularly without Ridley and Mackay in that game, to be those leaders there. So that was something I did like. It'll be interesting to see what happens when he has to play on someone and defend a bit harder, because one thing Heppel was quite good was winning those one-on-one battles. But if it's a marking contest and a one-on-one, I don't back Dylan Sheil to take an important intercept mark. He's kind of got to be that run and carry guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and whether some of the other defenders can compensate for that. But overall, and for this small sample size, I liked the move. I thought he played well, and yeah, I'm keen to see how it plays out over the next month.
Yeah, big raps on Dill at halfback. He looked really good there yesterday, and again, all the training reports have suggested that it's been a really successful move down back in most match sim, he's been one of the standout players. And again, yesterday he was definitely now, top 3 or 4 best players on the ground. One thing about Dylan is that question about the defensive side of his game. And if you actually rewatch yesterday, which you won't ever do, but some people may do so, he had about 2 or 3 one-on-ones and he won every single one of them, and they were marking contests. And statistically, he's only had one-on-one in his entire AFL career, and he's won it. So at this point in time,
100%.
He's going at 100%, and he looked like he was going at 100% yesterday. But in saying that, look,
What would I know? What would I know?
I think most teams do have that player. For instance, like Dane Zorko is a good example. Teams can expose Brisbane, but they don't seem to. I feel like the modern day AFL team does have at least one halfback who really is sort of first inclined as an attacking option, and other defenders, as you said, it's their job to cover. Look, I have one other player two other players that I wanted to talk about. I mean, I think generally our defence was really, really solid, but in particular, we saw 3 relatively new faces in our defence yesterday, and they all looked really solid. And those 3 names are Jackson Pryor, Lewis Hayes, and Zach Reid. So firstly, Zach Reid, he is the unicorn. He's the new unicorn, I would say. You don't really know what you're going to get from him, but I'm not in a bad way. It's just we haven't seen him play enough. But yesterday was a really good sample size of how much of a presence he has. He was really good with his ball disposal. I don't think he turned the ball over once from what I saw. He took a couple of really strong contested marks, and he did get outplayed a little bit by Sam Darcy in that first quarter, but Sam Darcy's got a few more games of experience. He might be a little bit younger, but Sam Darcy is genuinely a generational talent.
He'll be one of the best forwards in the comp very soon. I think
he's a freak.
Questions about that. He's very good.
He's an absolute freak. But in saying that, Reid was fantastic. Lewis Hayes had a really, really good game. If you don't see a defender getting much of the ball or being near the ball, it's usually a good thing. It means that they've done their job. They're not getting outmarked. And just about every single contest Lewis Hayes spoiled. He didn't take a huge amount of contested marks or intercept marks, but he just always got that fist in. He was always covering the ground well. And the same goes with his disposal. His disposal was really clean. He hit Draper up a number of times as that big outlet kick. Kick to the advantage of Draper, which, as a 60-metre kick is fantastic. And the same goes with Jackson Pryor. Took a couple of really good intercept marks. Very unassuming player, but was very good with his ball disposal. As these 3 have hardly played any football together, and two of them are going to make way for Ben Mackay and Jordan Ridley. So it's just good to know that we've got some real depth in that area now. And, some of those younger guys look like, they can take the mantle moving forward.
Yeah. Pryor was quite handy, and, depending on how things sort of shake up, he was sort of one that you'd think might sort of replace Jake Kelly in a sense, in that sort of back pocket role, not on the wing. We'll say that, not on the wing. He
was drafted as a winger, actually, so you might see him there.
Oh, God. Let's put
just another one of Jesse's wingers.
Another fucking winger. Zach Reid's... I'm so anxious watching Zach Reid play footy. Every time he goes to ground, I'm like, this is it.
That's it.
This is it. Stretcher's coming out. What's happening? And it's like, oh, no, he's back up. We're all good. Carry on. I thought he had some good moments. Like you said, like Sam Darcy, there was moments where Sam Darcy was dominating. And it definitely helped when he went off the ground. I thought Zach Reid did some really good things. Hayes as well was quite competent. Did what he needed to do. So
Hayes was playing on Norton, and Norton didn't even have a touch all day.
I was really happy with both those guys. Like, obviously, we want to have Mackay and Ridley front and centre for this team, but it's nice to know that those guys can come in if they're fit. Obviously, Jaden Laverty, the other one who wasn't playing either. So, yeah, pretty happy with both those guys. What did we'll go to these two before we look to wrap up. We haven't got time to cover everyone. But what did you make of Isaac Kako running out in the Sash, and what did you make of Big Nate Dogcaddy?
Kako was great. He has lived up to all the hype that he's garnered over the past 6 months, and he's really...
Poor kid.
He's electric. He's quick. His defensive work was probably the part of his game that I was the most impressed about, because that was the one jive that recruiters had on him, that he just didn't work hard defensively enough, but he was putting a heap of pressure on the entire day. He looked really fit. He looks really strong. And just some of that footwork. He is very, very nifty in tight, and he's just crafty. He just looks like a forward. He knows how to find space, to be able to draw away from his opposition defender to take a mark, and that snap in tight was very goal sneaky. So he's got all the attributes. Yeah,
a real small forwards goal where you just get a little bit of space and you kind of just take a step and then you just have a pick at it, like a real small forwards goal. And I think that's something particularly last year that we really lacked, is someone who could just take those real small opportunities and then convert it into a score. Like, Menzies does a lot of things well, but he is very he can spray it all over the place, as we know. So it's nice to see something who's a little bit more clinical. Caddy's just party. He's just such a party vibe. Like the slotting one from outside 50 nearly took an absolute hanger.
He doesn't need much of it, does he, to have an impact?
Yeah, he's... you talk about people who sell tickets. Nate Caddy's going to sell a lot of fucking tickets for this football club over the next few years, as long as he stays fit and out on the park, because there's a lot of people out there who are going to be like, I want to go see Nate Caddy play. And then there's going to be a lot of people like me who're going to have kids who in a few years' time are going to want to have Nate Caddy's number on their back, because he's the one who's bringing the highlight reel. So, yeah, he's... if we have a bad season, but Nate Caddy plays every week, I think a lot of people are still going to rock up just to watch him play.
Both him and Kako, excitement machines. Really, really good to see. What was your take on Jai Menzies yesterday?
Didn't notice him a great deal. Like, I saw a few moments here or there, but yeah, I was sort of half eye on the screen, half eye watching a child, trying to get a good read on some things. So, yeah, I wouldn't have said he was particularly great, but I also wouldn't have said he was particularly bad. It was kind of one of those, just like, had some moments, did some things, but that was kind of it.
Yeah, there was a couple of players in that category that... Jai looks much fitter than last year, and he looked to have that explosiveness to his game, but the problem isn't always has been with Menzies that he's just clumsy.
Yeah.
And there was so many times where he just fumbled in crucial moments. Almost like his brain is moving faster than his body is at times, is how I describe him as a player. And look, he kicked a couple of good goals, and yeah, I guess the thing with Jai is if he can just clean up his disposal a little bit, and if he can not be as fumbly, then yeah, I think there's a play there. But
yeah,
I'm not sure if I've got him starting 23.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I do either, and yeah, he's definitely maligned on social media by a lot of fans. Jesse, I've got to wrap up. You've got to go roll the arm over and maybe take a couple of wickets today in your cricket team. Listeners, thank you very much for joining us. Viewers as well on YouTube. We'll be back on the Wednesday after the practice match against the Cats, so we'll see you in like a week and a half, I think it is. But Jesse, thank you for joining me, and until next time, faithful, go Dons.
Go Dons.